All right, what's up, fans, friends, and students? It's me, Mr. Rasmussen here, the woodbender, master of all shop elements. Today we're working on phase 2 of our pen turning assignment. We're going to be gluing, barrel trimming, and then mounting our project on the lathe so we can begin turning. Buckle up and get ready to make a ton of progress on our pen assignment. Alright, so we're getting ready to glue those brass tubes into our pen blanks. The first thing we'll need to do is to take some sandpaper and scuff up those tubes a little bit. This helps the tubes create a better bond with the glue and the wood. I'm just going to make sure that every side or angle on these tubes have been scuffed, and then I'll be good to go. Now we're ready to move on to gluing. We're going to want to grab a latex glove first thing though. The glue we're using is called CA glue, and basically it's like the goat of super glue, so it's going to dry extremely fast. I'm going to start out by making a bead of glue just about as long as the tube. I'm going to roll my tube around in that glue and just get it nice and gluey all around. And for this next part, I'm going to have to move a little quickly. I'm going to add just a little bit of glue to the blank. I'm going to take my tube and I'm going to start inserting it. I'm going to twist as it goes into the tube. I'm doing that because I want the glue to be spread evenly around inside of the blank. And like I said, I want to move quickly through this step because that glue will dry very, very fast. And if I even stop for a couple seconds when I'm inserting that tube or twisting, if I give it just a couple seconds to rest, it can end up setting and drying before I'm ready. And we really don't want that, because if that happens, I'm going to end up with a tube that's only halfway inserted into the blank. And here I'm just going to do the exact same thing with my second blank. And before we move on, I need to mention something. The cap needs to go back onto the CA glue. It needs to be twisted on, and the glue should be standing up straight. It should never be laying down sideways like that. That can cause the glue to dry. So just stand it up straight and I won't have to go Avatar State yip yip on you. For this next step, we'll be over at the barrel trimmer, which is set up on one of the drill presses. You'll use the same type of vise, and the barrel trimmer is used to expand the brass tube into the wood. It'll also cut the blank to make the tube and the blank be the exact same size. You'll want to line it up before you turn it on, and then you'll need to hold it tightly with your left hand as you turn on the drill. And what we're doing here is just setting the barrel trimmer all the way through, and then the top is going to start to cut the blank. We'll want to cut until we can see that the tube is flush with the blank. And here's what that'll look like right here. So see, I can actually see the brass tube. It's shining just slightly outside of the wood. One side I'm going to have to cut. The other side should already be flush with the blank. But I'm still going to send the barrel trimmer through on that second side as well. So here I got one side looking good. I'm going to take it out and show you that I can now see the brass tube on that side. I'm going to flip that around, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. The brass tube is already pretty much flush on this side, but I still just need to send it through to just expand it from this other side as well. So now that we're done barrel trimming, those tubes are going to fit nice and easily onto the mandrel, which is the rod that is connected to the lathe. To set this up, we're going to use these bushings. One goes on first, then your blank. The first blank, you might have to twist to use some force to get it in. Then another bushing, and then your second blank, and then one last bushing. So there's 3 bushings that go on there. And then the gold ring gets twisted on nice and tight as it can go, until it starts to twist with the blanks. You'll go ahead and set up the tool rest and the tailstock next. You'll set up the tool rest so that it's only about 1/8 of an inch away from the blanks. Here I'm twisting it manually to make sure that the blanks aren't running into the tool rest. And now I'm ready to set up the tailstock. It just unclamps and then clamp it back in so that it doesn't slide. Twist the end a little bit, which is the quill, to keep it tight. And now our lathe is all ready set up. We're ready to start turning. Before we go though, we're going to want to check the speed. Right now it's spinning at 800 RPMs. I'm going to want to take that all the way up to 3000, because when we're just starting out, our blank is just in a block shape and we have a long ways to go to get it to be a pen shape. So that's why we're going to turn it up to spin so fast. When it's spinning faster, it'll be able to take off a lot more material quicker. And so at first we want to take off a lot of material, and we're okay doing it quickly because there's just so much material that we need to actually cut through to get it to be in a pen shape. And the key to this is going to be to keep the speed as high as we can until it's in the shape of a cylinder. Once it's in a cylindrical shape, we're going to have to turn down the speed, and we can't keep it going too fast for too long, because that will make us run the risk of actually cutting too deeply and ruining our pen. If we mess up now, we'll have to start the whole pen over again. So like I was saying, we can go fast when we have a lot of material to remove, but once we've removed the bulk of that material, we're going to want to turn down the speed. If we keep it going around 3000 RPMs for the whole time, well, we're just cutting it closer and closer to our brass tubes, and eventually we can end up cutting into those tubes and splitting the wood, and that's exactly what we don't want. We're avoiding that by turning down the speed once we have those blanks into our cylinder shape. So every once in a while I'll turn off the lathe and I'll check it by hand to see my progress. That's what I'm doing here. And every once in a while you'll have to adjust something. Sometimes you have to just tie in that gold ring. Sometimes the tool rest needs to be moved closer. Sometimes the tool rest needs to be adjusted vertically up or down. So every once in a while, just check your progress, see how you're doing, and make sure that it's still cutting. If the cutter isn't taking off any material, something needs to be adjusted. Something's just not set up right. So here I took my blank off of the lathe to check it. I can see it's in a cylinder shape now. So now is when I'm going to want to turn down the speed, and I'm going to turn it down from 3000 down to about 1500. I want to take a minute to talk about how to use the easy tool, which is the rougher or the cutting tool that we're using here. If you're right-handed, your right hand will go at the bottom of the tool, and then your left hand can rest on top. You use your left hand to keep downward pressure on the tool. You want it to be constantly attached to the tool rest. Now notice that my left hand is all the way up there on the throat of the rougher. This gives me a ton of control over the blade, and I can make my cuts as precise as I need them to be. I would never want to see someone holding the handle with both hands while using this tool. That doesn't give you enough control to be able to make the cuts that you need to do. And with my right hand, I can control the depth of my cuts. I would suggest starting out by taking off very little material at a time. And as you get a little more comfortable, you can start experimenting with making deeper cuts. So now I'm getting into the actual shaping of my pen. This pen in particular, I'm giving a bulge kind of shape. So I'm cutting the ends a little lower, and the middle I'm keeping a little bit higher, and that's what's going to give it the bulge shape. And then I'm just making sure that it has a smooth transition between those low and high parts. So now that my blanks are looking rather pen-like, I need to turn down the speed one more time. I'm going to go from 1500 down to about 1000. And this is going to allow me to fine tune any areas that need improvement and just get my pen to its final shape and size. Alright guys, that's it for part 2. In part 3, we're going to work on sanding, finishing, and then assembling. So stick around and see how we finish this pen.